did a video last week for Vaccine Injury Awareness Month, and I wanted to do another one this week, but I didn't exactly know what I was going to talk about. And I had a couple ideas kind of running through my brain, and then I found out last week, the end of last week, that the vaccine truth movement, the vaccine injury awareness movement, had actually lost one of its greatest heroes and one of its strongest warriors. My friend Liam Scheff. Liam, if you didn't know who he was, I suggest you read his blog and look at his work over at liamscheff.com. And we worked together on many occasions. He was on my show. I ran a show for 4 years on Truth Your Talk with my friend Christine Henry, and Liam was a frequent guest on our show, and he was just brilliant and wonderful, and there's really nobody quite like him ever to walk the planet. He had a mind like no one I'd ever known or probably will ever know. And he, was an artist and a writer and a comedian. He's really funny, and he did a lot of comedy on our show, and that was one of the things that we bonded over. We had a really propensity, the two of us really enjoyed making each other laugh. He did most of the making me laugh, to be honest. We ran a lot of shows where he would be the funny man and I was the straight kind of interviewer, and he would do impersonations and things like that, and it was fun. But we also were quite good personal friends for the past 6.5 years. And friend is not a big enough word for what he was to me. It doesn't quite, cut it. I don't know, family, something deeper for sure. He was brilliant, and I don't want to talk too much about my relationship with him, because I want to just really celebrate who he was, because this world was graced with something that will probably never come around again. But I promised him, and I will keep this promise, that I won't forsake him for mortality. His spirit will continue to live on, and it will always be with me. So I just want to read one of his essays. He wrote a few essays. He didn't write much in his last few days where he was getting very sick. But his writing was so beautiful that I wanted to read. I went through some of them today, and I thought maybe I should just read this one out loud. And that would be my way of honoring him, and I think he would like that, because he didn't. One thing he would worry about with me was that I could be very introverted. I'm not really a loudmouth. I just play one on the internet. In the real world, I can be shy and introverted, and he would worry that I wouldn't reach out enough when I needed help and things like that. And so I do this for my friend. Just in Case by Liam Scheff. This was begun as a letter I wrote to a friend, a just in case. If things go badly for me, you can let people know it was the constant physical pain that did it, not a particular view of the world, not being negative about oil or culture or collapse or politics or science or any other thing. If I weren't being racked by pain, brain shit, and the ungodly invasive ear shit, I'd be planning to travel, to get more into backwoods, camping, and building cabins, shelters, woodland gardens, etc. It's on my mind. But this fucking goddamn disease, whatever it is stealing so much from me. I don't know how much longer I can resist the desire to leave pain behind. I've had so much time to think about this world, life and death. For someone who's been critical of people and institutions, I find over and over again all that tasks me about the world are all of its misspent energy, all of our thoughtless, rudderless decisions and indecisions adding up to calamity. There's always plenty to hate in it, of course, and we humans do that well. Humor, satire, pith, criticism. It's a joy to hate the bad things and a pleasure to love the beauty. To hate some of it and love all of it. And that mood passes, and I find over and over again all that I love in this world. I love the poetry of it. Endlessly, sans fin, forever. I've noticed in myself the constant love of moments, the moon in all phases, relief in the arms of a loved one, the promise of lights in the distant, the blessed sounds of nighttime, moving across the landscape on bike or on foot. The passage of things, the endless metamorphosis of thought and shape and form, the feeling of simply being. I've realized how much I enjoy the pure act of living. I perhaps haven't noticed that enough and indulged it enough, or simply acknowledged that my way of being, my internal poetry, was in fact okay, and an acceptable to be. My mind is tasked, or was, on being productive in some way, useful, or working at some point or bit of learning a job, but it seems to me that there was plenty I've not done, that I would wish to do, that would return me to working more with products of the natural world and constructing what people need to live. I had that in me once, but the information age captured my attention like so many, and now I wonder what it in total is worth. I should have stuck with carving wood and being a good artisan, or should not have abandoned it. But that's the century's curse to its young. We were trained to value what was temporary, mechanical, shiny, and unreal. I've often focused on politics or negative politics of science or religion and given myself to a task to uproot it, to find the deeper truths. That's not always happy work, though it's most often or always fascinating. I suppose I have so much Vulcan in me that Spock's not artist too. That is, the mind that simply finds every unraveling of a mystery to be fascinating. I joke with myself sometimes internally when doing these deep readings of the world. Fascinating, Captain, my mind will say, to make me laugh at my own process. But I've been able to realize, particularly in these last weeks and months, something I've always known. It's why I would disappear on forever bike rides or walks. I'm always encaptured by the poetry of life, by the moments large and small that play out on the horizon, on the turning of the earth, in the curving of a street, in the distance, the color of the air as it meets sunlight, by passing faces, glances, whole worlds inside of people's minds and souls that are always floating by. The sunlit romance of the world, always, always, always. The depth that can only be seen in the darkness, the past that only show in moonlight. I've always loved so much about being alive, but I've always been troubled and irritated by life too. I suppose that this world's yin and yang, the beauty and the ugly, the stupid and the obvious and the needlessly thoughtless, and the sublime, the generous, small, beautiful, tender moments in of our world. I've had a lot of time to think about death too, as I seem pointing. When I close my eyes for the hours of my worst pain and most hopeless moments, and I let myself feel death, feel the reality that is part of every single person's life on earth, when I don't shrug or shriek or push it away, when I allow its embrace to guide me and talk to me, well, there are so many thoughts. I feel the sadness of leaving friends behind, of leaving years unlived, of leaving my beloved few behind to suffer the pain of losing me. As I lost my own beloved person 6 years ago to a pain I didn't think was possible to survive. There is that, all the sorrow, all the pain, all the tears and the crying and the inveighing against a brutal, unkind, unfair, unreasonable universe that doesn't seem to care at all for our notions of honor or fairness or justice or even good. There is that, and a dozen conversations about how the mind paints all the turns and episodes of life and asks us to judge ourselves as unworthy or worthy of somebody's notion of value. And that lingers for a moment, then it fades. And the tasks and duties and gossip and politics and ridiculous medieval machinery of this world recedes as though it were never there, never more than an idea, a whisper of a notion of no importance at all. But remains the question, what then? What is on the other side of the veil? I've laid it up against it for months now, asking, wondering. There is a quiet darkness that answers only itself, dark and silent. A sea that we cannot penetrate from this side, no monsters except those from our psyche, no angels except those from our heart. Just unknown, silent and deep, not busy, not bothered, not active, just silent, and without worry for anything at all. When in these states, when I'm sensing all I can, I don't see anybody's version of heaven or hell, these tales for children, or the child's mind in all of us to get us some set of rules or another. I've come to sense that all we know is delineated by our boundary, a doom in our eternal sky that is the uppermost limit of our perception. Everyone's internal world is under this doom of perception, but we don't see the doom. What we see is a movie screen. All day, all year, all life long, we project our movies onto it, and we feel, think, know, and presume these movies are real. Find people to argue with about which of our movies are true and real, and which are untrue and just somebody else's religion. But there is that doom, and I think it is quite real in all of us. Beyond it, I can't tell what I see except sleep. Peaceful, uninterrupted sleep. I have no idea what is in the place that is infinite source for all that is, for our finite musings and meddlings on this manifested mosquito and typhoid-ridden rock. This beautiful, big, blue and white and yellow and red and every color marble. I think we can't know from here, much as we try, imagine or dream we can. I think some things are simply a mystery until you pass the boundary. In truth, I hope and dream of a field of summer where loved ones can muse with each other in whatever way spirits communicate. I hope and dream for that warm place which I know we can't describe from here, but which makes us all whole again. I like that thought. Anyway, just writing to say these are the thoughts among the sadness that I can't seem to figure out how to get better, that there are things that broke in my cerebellum that I'm unable to coax back into the shape they once were. The unfairness of it all, and it is bloody fucking unfair, and I know it, which only makes me cry. It is unfair, I know it. I didn't do anything to deserve being this sick. I went to the dentist and she performed too much, too long, too extended, too deep, too painful surgeries on my teeth, with my neck too extended and too horizontal, and something just broke. So in case anyone asks, that's just some of it. You know what you realize when you're in some danger of leaving the planet is that was what you'll miss the most is experiencing it. The simple and confronting narration our minds read for all of us as we travel through life. We are at man, perhaps, our own best friends. We're ourselves longer than anyone after all, and we see ourselves, the concept called self, in the 1,000 moods and 10,000 moments that create our lives. Such a mystery I hope still to heal, but I'll admit that I'm having my doubts. But one can have hope that leaving pain behind is also healing. Much love, Liam.